DJ Valentino here with Chase from Dogleg. How are you doing today, Chase?
I am good. I had the day off today, so I can't complain. And I'm just riding it out, having a good one.
Definitely couldn't agree more. Yeah, obviously you've had an extremely successful 2020 with the release of your debut record. How are you feeling about 2021?
2021 looks hopeful. We started writing a couple new tracks, which is crazy because we haven't even gotten a tour or play a single show for the new album yet. Well, I guess almost a year old album at this point. And we're hoping that shows will become a thing. I know that it was briefly spoken about in the fall that Dr. Fauci said that it could be a possibility. I am hopeful, but I can totally see that not being the case and they get pushed back to next year again.
Is it almost weird? So you obviously spent 3 years writing Melee, and then you had a year of re-recording. Is it weird to just start writing new material almost immediately after the album?
Yeah, it definitely, because after we recorded Melee, so that now it's been almost 2 years since we've made a new song. So it does feel somewhat proper and the right thing to do, and it makes sense, but also it's just insane that we haven't even gotten to play any of these songs for people who just found out about us when the album came out.
That definitely makes sense. And now, obviously, it might be too early to say, but are these new songs in the similar vein of Melee? Do they kind of sound raw and energetic, or are they in a new direction entirely?
I would say they're in a similar vein. We always try to keep our songs distinct from one another. So when we're writing music, we'll say oh, we could do this. And then we're well, that sounds a little too much like Prom Hell. That sounds a little too much like Kawasaki Backflip. So we can try to just change that even a little bit more. What can we do to add a dynamic to make this song unique, but still feel like a Dogleg song?
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. Kind of it still sounds like it's from the Dogleg catalog, but it also has a new flair to every song.
Totally. Yeah, we don't want our music to be oh yeah, they wrote this song and that just sounds just like Fox. That's what we try to avoid.
I can totally understand that. Now, are these new songs going to be a part of an album, or is it going to be just you're writing songs just to write songs right now?
Yeah, we're just writing to write songs right now. We don't really have any idea what will happen to them on when they'll get released or whatnot. They're all still rough drafts. So who knows when they'll even be finished, but right now we just have two. We'll keep making more and keep fleshing those two out until we decide hey, we can put something else out. We have no idea what it could be on though.
Definitely. Well, I know that, a lot of Dogleg fans out there are super excited to hear them. If you don't mind, I do want to backtrack a bit and talk a little bit about Melee. I know it's almost a year old, but this record, when it came out, was pretty much universally loved. And then throughout 2020, in a year where there's no shows, the hype for this record weirdly really grew, in a sense where typically you tour to, promote a record. But this record is appearing on a ton of year-end lists. It's getting a lot of love. How does it feel to kind of watch this record grow throughout the course of the year?
It was really exciting and unexpected. We definitely thought we'd make a splash, but not nearly as big as we did. It was really shocking to see NPR talk about us, and then we had we were in part of a MTV article, and everyone in the band's what is going on? This is insane. And then obviously all the love that Pitchfork gave us was phenomenal. Very, very nice of them, especially with best new track and whatnot. We were just really shocked about it. But yeah, and that's all I could say.
Yeah, the Pitchfork one was really cool, because I know that Pitchfork is especially, it's very critical, and they do tear a lot of records apart. And so seeing them just absolutely, love this new album, put it on their year-end list, love the songs, that was really cool to watch.
Yeah. Oh, did I dodge your question, by the way? When I started talking, I feel like I trailed off and I forgot.
No. That's perfect. That's perfect.
Okay,
yeah.
cool.
Again, I got a lot of hype. So,
yeah,
it's super awesome. Is it going to feel weird to play these songs live? Because yes, you've had these songs for 4 years, but you haven't really, you released the record in March. It's been almost a full year since you really kind of like touched them. When you play them live, is there going to be a disconnect, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think if anything, everyone in the band is really eager to play the songs live, because if there's anything that people gave us credit for, and the reason that we were like such like a prevalent band in the DIY emo community, was our live shows and the energy we have in our performances. Like I just remember there was a tweet where from a band that's a friend of ours, and they were just like, I don't get how Dogleg hasn't released music in 2-3 years, and this was before Melee. So they're talking about how Alderaan was the most recent release at the time, and how are they still like so relevant, and they're getting like headlining stuff, and it's just because we put on what I think are amazing shows with the energy that we provide, and I think that's such a driving force, which is why it's so shocking that the album did so well when we can't even play shows. Because I thought, yeah, people will like the album. People will absolutely love the album after they see it live and like the performance. And I think we make really memorable shows.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what I find really, really cool is that typically when you play a record live, you see the fan base grow within, with your own two eyes. You watch this fan base like get bigger, you watch the crowds get larger and larger and larger. But with this year, you already had a phenomenal live show, and then boom, you have a lot of hype, you have a lot of traction, a lot of people are tuning in, hearing you guys for the first time, and you can't even watch that fan base gradually grow. So it's going to kind of be cool to see like, a large fan base, and then I'm sure when you tour again, a really, really large fan base.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing we can watch right now is the Spotify monthly listener number go up. It doesn't hit the same.
No, no, I'm sure it doesn't. I do want to also get your opinion. I know that you guys were on tour with Microwave when the pandemic first kind of happened. Do you mind going through maybe your mental process of, the nervousness of releasing this new record, being on tour when everything shut down?
So what's interesting was we were only on the second part of that tour. So when Microwave was on the road, we were still at home, and halfway through their tour, we were going to join on because whatever band was the third slot for the first half, I forget who that was, unfortunately. We were going to just trade places with them. So we weren't on the road yet. We were getting ready for it. So I can't really speak on, the fears of being on the road and everything getting shut
Mm.
down. But I do remember what we were going to do is fly to South by Southwest. I think that was the week the album came out. And we set it all up. We bought a bunch of like flight cases for our equipment. We had it ready to go, plane tickets scheduled. And then not even a week later, everything's getting shut down. We didn't even get refunded for the plane tickets. We have credits that we have to use eventually by the end of this year, I think, figure out what to do with those. And
Yeah.
that was a bummer. But I guess we still have the flight cases if we ever can fly somewhere.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we hope that shows can resume before 2021 ends.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like the merch situation, I know a lot of bands, they made a lot of tour specific merch, and then when everything happened, they can't really, all those dates aren't really valid anymore. Were you guys like, how did that work out when you had like, did you print new merch for that tour, or was it just kind of a lot of the similar merch?
It was similar merch. Nothing was date specific, but I have been hearing about people really liking that those dates never happened, because it kind of makes it like rare or unique in its own vein. So I guess there's like a niche community that really likes those shirts. Even when we were gonna do the Audio Tree live session in Chicago, um, we thought about making just like a shirt that has just the Audio Tree date on it as sort of like a joke. Haha, this is our online tour because it's the only thing we can do right now.
Yeah.
So, but other than that, the merch that we had currently designed didn't change. We just put it online, and we were already working with Cold Cuts by that time, so they made it really easy.
Yeah, yeah. Now, when you were releasing this record, were you nervous like about all that was happening in the world? Do you think it could get to this point, or did you, in
Uh,
March kind of thing?
yeah, I definitely did not think it would get to this point. This was very unexpected. I remember reading about the first person in Seattle to have COVID, and we were on tour with Glass Beach on the West Coast, and I'm pretty sure like it was it was 2 days before we were going to Seattle on that tour that they were like, hey, like the first person in the US has COVID and they're in Seattle. And we're like, whoa, that's crazy. We're going to be there soon. Um, hopefully, nothing goes wrong. It's only one person. Hopefully they do the right things, but it just, the most insane snowball I could have never imagined just happened from there with global events and whatnot.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. And it's definitely shocking to look back in retrospect now, but I'm sure that once things start to return to a semblance of normal, it'll be something to look back on.
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think anyone's going to forget what happened in 2020.
Nope. So now I'm going to switch gears a little bit and go into a new direction that I want to talk about, specifically kind of your songwriting process. I'm really, really intrigued by this because a lot of these songs sound almost like really, really fresh, but also really cool and nostalgic at the same time. It really is such a unique lightning in a bottle songwriting that you captured on this new album Melee and on, your previous releases like Alderaan and self-titled EP.
Yeah, so thank you for that. I appreciate it. With the nostalgic sound, I would say that probably stems heavily from our influences and the bands that we really admire, like Bear vs. Shark or Crash of Rhinos, and the type of music that they made in the 90s and early 2000s was really iconic in my opinion, and it definitely shaped us in a major way because everyone in the band are huge, huge fans of both Crash of Rhinos and Bear vs. Shark. And we kind of took that and we wanted to sort of take it to the next step logically. At least their songs are usually long-winded but very energetic and captivating, and sometimes like their songs feel like two songs in one. So we were like, okay, so like let's take that formula and like let's take all the influence that we have from those two artists and let's kind of let's cut the fat from it, let's make it punch just as hard, but just one punch and done. There's no like follow up that's unexpected.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And I think especially, on moments like, that end of Fox where it gets really slow for a bit, then it just starts to build and explode. Stuff like that, I can definitely hear some influences, but it's such a fun album. It really is
Oh
a
yeah,
blast to listen to.
thank you. Yeah, we're a big fan of tension and using dynamics with just quiet, loud, and like those very like micro breaks is what we call them in the band. We're just like for half a second there's nothing, but then bam, everything hits you all at once again.
And you're so right. And I think maybe that's part of the reason why this record is so dynamic. And I never get sick of listening to it. I've been listening to it for, again, almost a year now, and it still feels really original because there are moments where, it gets a little quiet and you kind of start to simmer a bit. And then when it comes back in full force, it's a shock, it's
Yeah,
great.
thank you.
Another thing I wanted to ask about with this kind of songwriting mixing process, I know it was recorded by Tyler Floyd and Brett Roms, but you guys have a really, really cool sound in the sense that the music sounds raw. It sounds very, very, like aggressive and fun, but at the same time, it sounds very like professional and it doesn't sound like basement. It really walks that
Mhm.
line very, very well. Was this intentional, or did like the producers kind of take this and run with it?
Uh, I would say it is intentional. When it was first mixed by Tyler, that was before we were signed to Triple Crown, and we were shopping the album around because we had it mixed, then we had it mastered by a friend of Alex's, and we were like, okay, the album's done, we did it, and we emailed a bunch of labels, and Fred from Triple Crown was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Yeah, I'd love to hop on a call with you guys and discuss this. So we did, and we hopped on. He was like, yeah, these are great demos. Like I can really see this going somewhere. And we were like, that's the album's done. It's not demos. Uh-oh. And then he was like, oh, well, okay, hear me out, guys. The label will pay for someone to remix this album and remaster the album. They just took the stems. They didn't go backwards on Tyler's work, and that is where Brett Roms got introduced into the equation. And he's worked, I believe, with Free Throw a lot. He's their main guy, I'm pretty sure. And so he kind of put that spin on the album, but we thought it was a little too much in the professional realm. So we asked him to drag it back, and we asked him to drag back a lot in the sense where if you can think of it as a spectrum, on the left side, there's that professionalness. And on the right side, there's like the roughness basement sounding. And we started off all the way on the right side. And then we ended up all the way on the left side. And since we were big fans of the right side, we were able to drag him back to that, like the perfect middle ground.
I'm really, really happy to hear you say that because it definitely worked in the sense that the very first thing I noticed on this record was how professional but yet raw it sounded.
Yeah, it sounded way, way, way more raw and way, way, way less professional for what Fred called the demos and what we thought was the album.
I love it. I love it. Now, another thing that you guys have been doing specifically was released last month. You dropped a split EP with the band Worst Party Ever, and that was really, really fascinating. What went into kind of that choice?
So they are like best friends of ours. We toured with them, I think 2 years ago now. Might be three. It was in the fall of some year, and that happened just because their lead singer Andy just hit me up and was like, "Yo, Dogleg's amazing. If you guys ever want to tour, let me know." And I was like, "Holy crap! This is the dude from Worst Party Ever." All of my friends listen to him, and the other band members. And so I was like, "Yeah, absolutely, let's get this going." And that tour was probably the best like tour we've ever had in the sense of like building a relationship with another band,
Mm.
because to this day we still use the tour group chat just to like send memes and whatnot to each other and just talk, which is
Yeah.
amazing. So when um when Fred from Triple Crown asked us last, I believe, spring, to think about a band that we might want to do covers for, or in like like this whole split cover thing, um like right off the bat, no brainer, everyone in Dogleg was like, "Oh, Worst Party Ever, they're our best friends." Like, and it would be really cool to take their music and just put it lightning in a bottle it. And then we were really curious how they would take our songs and kind of bring it down to their like indie level.
Yeah. Now that's super fascinating. It's super awesome that you had such a strong relationship, but then you got to work with them in that regards of not only did you tour with them, you got to kind of take your own perspective on each other's art. What made you choose the two songs Gannon Main and Road Trip?
We picked Gain and Main. Well, we picked both of the songs because I think as the band voted, and they were all songs that we really, really liked. Also, Gain and Main has that Melee reference behind it, which I thought was cute. So that kind of just adds into the whole Dogleg Melee lore. And with Road Trip, I think we just saw the potential for what we could do to the song, and we thought it was the one that would shock people the most, or like this is such like a great version of the song, like we could upgrade that the best.
Yeah, yeah, that definitely makes sense. You could see when you heard that song, you could see your own influences if you were writing this, how it would work.
Mm.
When shows do return, are you going to be playing those covers live?
Probably not unless we play a show with Worst Party Ever. I wouldn't. That would be the only reason I could see it being on the set list. Because we could be like, hey, you guys know how to play Fox, we know how to play Ganymede. Like, should we do it? But other than that, if we're not playing with Worst Party Ever, I wouldn't see it happening.
Yeah, yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. So now I've got one more question for you. Obviously, Dogleg is very influenced by like the video game culture. The title of the record being Melee. You've got the song War Turtle.
Yep.
There's a lot of like video game references. What kind of video games do you play? How did that factor into the music in the first place, kind of thing?
So the album's called Melee purely because of me, because I play competitive Super Smash Bros. Melee. I've been playing it since 2015. I've been like running my own tournaments for the past 3 years. Obviously, I haven't ran one since last March, but before then, when I went to Wayne State University, I was hosting tournaments in the lobby of my apartment. And then when I graduated and I moved out to a house nearby, I just started having those tournaments in my basement, and the band lived here. And so when we were trying to come up with a title for the album, I absolutely 100% threw it out there as a joke. I was like, what if we call the album Melee? Haha, get it? Because I play Melee, you know? And then Alex just kind of said, wait, no, hold on, think about that. Because like Melee is not only the video game, but like the word melee and its definition, where it's like, you know, like a scrappy brawl. He was like, that's really cool. So let's do it. And I was floored. I was like, holy crap, seriously? I didn't I was like, what? No way. But that's where that comes from. We the song title for War Turtle just kind of came out of nowhere. I'm not like a huge fan of Pokemon. I definitely dropped out of it. The last Pokemon game I played was Soul Silver for the DS when I was like in 10th grade. But we just thought it was a cool sounding word. Also, what's funny is Fred from Triple Crown didn't know what War Turtle was or is, because when we first got on that call with him, he was like, yeah, no, I really like these demos, and that one song, I don't know how to pronounce the name. It's like war something, and we're like, holy, he doesn't know what Pokemon is.
That is actually so funny. Yeah, I think if you weren't grown up on the Pokemon games, like I'm sure weird stuff, you know, all the names are definitely gonna trip you up.
Yeah, but Jacob's a huge fan of Pokemon. He wasn't part of the Melee songwriting process. He wasn't in the band yet. By the time the album was finished being written, but he is a huge Pokemon fan, so he can back up War Turtle on his own right. But other than that, I play competitive fighting games, mainly just Melee and Street Fighter 3 Third Strike, which is my favorite version of Street Fighter. And outside of that, very casual gamer. My friends got me to play Overwatch with them a couple of times recently, so I might keep doing that. But other than that, it's mainly just the fighting games that I think are really, really cool.
Yeah, well, I'm sure with the pandemic, you've had a lot of time to, you know, improve your skills even more now because like everyone's quarantined.
Yeah, exactly. I definitely got a lot better at Street Fighter simply because I had nothing to do but play it online.
I love it. I love it. Well, again, thank you so much for talking with me today. Melee is out on all streaming platforms. You can hear it on WSOU Under the Stars every Tuesday night, 10 to midnight. And furthermore, if you check out personal plug, my year-end list, Valentino's top 50 albums of 2020, you'll find Melee at number 16. Really a phenomenal record. And it has been awesome to talk with you today, Chase.
Thank you so much, Valentino. I appreciate you having me on.